Hi, you are on the Revenge Eddie channel.
I used to think the worst things in life arrive at night. Fires, sirens, footsteps on the stairs. My nightmare came in the morning. I opened a letter with the Fairview Bank logo and saw a word that cut into my brain like a nail. Foreclosure. Eviction. We had lived here for 9 years. I knew every crack in the plaster, every squeaky board. I thought the house knew me too. Turns out it didn't. My name is Zach. I'm 41, born in Kansas, now living in a suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. I'm an electrician, union guy, working shifts, grumbling about rates, doing side jobs on weekends. My wife, Maggie, is a nurse. Our son, Noah, is 7 and dreams about building his own baseball field in the backyard. On the surface, we looked like a normal family. Up close, the cracks showed. But I always believed cracks fix themselves if you ignore them long enough. I was wrong. The letter said I'd defaulted on a commercial line of credit. Our home was listed as collateral in a deed of trust dated April 3rd of last year. Attached was a copy of a document with my signature. It looked like mine, just a little longer but close enough. I called the bank immediately. A tired but steady voice answered. A woman named Elaine from the risk department. She explained they'd tried to contact me for 3 months. According to their files, my company, Lawson Electric LLC, had gone silent. If payment wasn't made, foreclosure proceedings would begin. I told her there was no such company. There was only me and a utility knife. She sighed and told me I could file a fraud claim, and the bank would freeze action until the investigation was done. When I hung up, Maggie was standing at the dishwasher, staring at me like I'd brought a snowstorm into the kitchen. "What is it?" she asked. I handed her the letter. She didn't cry. She just sat down, pressed a hand against her forehead, and stayed quiet. Noah asked if he could finish his cartoon. I told him yes because I had no idea how to explain what was happening. At the police station, Officer Brown typed up my statement in blunt, nail-like sentences. Identity stolen, fraudulent credit line, house listed as collateral. He asked me where I kept my passwords. I didn't answer at first, but the truth was in a battered notebook shoved into the back pocket of my tool bag. Passwords built from the name of my high school baseball team and the years we won. Easy for me. Easy for anyone who knew my life. He said they'd probably never catch who did this. These guys sit far away and know the laws better than we do. He gave me a case number and told me to lock my credit with the bureaus. That's how I found myself knee-deep in paperwork, navigating Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, freezing my accounts. I called notary offices asking if I had ever signed a deed of trust. One said there was a record of a remote notarization. Another had nothing. On the Ohio Secretary of State's website, I found Lawson Electric LLC registered for $99 through some online service. The mission statement: "We believe in honesty and quality." The words felt plastic. My whole life suddenly felt plastic. Elaine kept in touch every couple of days. I started to learn a new language. Dispute, affidavit, stay, sheriff's sale. The last phrase hit me hardest. A sheriff's sale wasn't just jargon. It was a date when strangers would gather in a courthouse and bid on the place where my son built blanket forts. I checked the county website constantly, watching for updates under my address like it was the weather forecast. Work started slipping away. My foreman suggested I take unpaid leave, hinting that my unpredictable hours weren't fitting the schedule. I tried to hold the line, showing up early and leaving late, but every night I sat at the kitchen table drafting letters. Our second-hand table had a tag on it once, "Minor defects." I felt like I'd become one of those defects. Maggie and I fought more than we ever had. She said, "I always have to catch up to you." I swore I'd fix it, but the word fix felt hollow. At the library, where the Wi-Fi was stable and the scanners were free, a man named Sam noticed me. He wore a badge, some kind of volunteer. I told him a short version of my story. He said, "Come Thursday. Legal aid clinic meets in the church basement." That's how I ended up face-to-face with a young attorney in sneakers and a sharp blazer. She explained I could file a motion to stay, pausing the sale while the bank reviewed my fraud claim. "Not a guarantee," she said. "Just air between the blows." We gathered everything. My police report, tax returns, photos of the house before and after repairs, copies of our letters to the bank, a credit report showing fraudulent store cards I'd never opened. I wrote a sworn statement late one night, typing slowly, like coaxing fire from wet wood. Maggie made tea and wrapped her arms around me from behind. That was the first moment of peace I'd had in weeks. The judge granted a 60-day stay. I read the document over and over, like I didn't believe it. Around the same time, Elaine told me the bank had launched an internal investigation into the questionable notarization. I cut down my work hours, less money, but more time with my family. Noah and I watched MLB highlights on the couch a few nights in a row. For the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was caving in. Still, anger simmered under the surface. Anger at the stranger who stole my name, at the notary who stamped a ghost, at myself for thinking problems vanish if you don't look. At night, I wandered the house listening to its sounds, the HVAC exhaling, the stairs creaking, and reminded myself, the house doesn't have to know me. I have to know the house. One afternoon, the legal clinic asked for original documents proving your identity at the time of the alleged transaction. I had nothing, so they told me, write an affidavit. I wrote about where I really was that day, crawling under a ranch house, running new wiring, covered in dust. I even had a photo on my phone, me in safety goggles, timestamped. I attached it. That night, I slept deeper than I had in months. Telling the truth on paper had weight. Meanwhile, bills piled up. We canceled cable, switched to prepaid phones, sold my rare Steelbit set, an anniversary gift from a coworker. You'll buy another one later, he said. Right now, don't break. I started saying words I'd never allowed myself to say. I need a break. Those words kept me standing. On Easter, Maggie's parents invited us for dinner. I didn't want to go, too much shame, but she insisted. Her mother asked bluntly, will you lose the house? I said, we're fighting. Her father poured me coffee and told me when he went bankrupt in the 90s, he thought love would be the first thing to leave. It wasn't. Home isn't walls. It's the choice to stay. It sounded like a Hallmark card, but it stuck. In May, we finally got news. The notarization used by the bank was invalid. The remote notary's license had been revoked months before. The judge extended our stay. It wasn't victory, but it wasn't defeat either. It was space. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like a year. That night, I sat on the porch, the air sweet with blooming trees. I thought about the stranger who typed in my name, hit submit, and walked away with my credit. Sometimes I imagine him in a cheap motel, sometimes in a house just like mine. Sometimes I think of him as a shadow, passing through people's lives. I don't know him, but I know myself better than I did before. What changed? I lock our mailbox now. I use passwords so absurd I laugh when I type them. I keep digital copies of every document. More than that, I've learned to say not now to my son and trust he'll forgive me, because later I will show up. I hug Maggie without needing a reason. She hugs me back. The hardest part is unlearning the habit of waiting for disaster. When you spend months counting down to a sheriff's sale, silence feels suspicious. I still wake up at 4 a.m. and check email. But now I force myself toward the coffee maker, listening to the drip, choosing not to refresh the county site. I think about summer trips to Hoover Reservoir with Noah, fishing off the dock. Or about the baseboard in the living room that's waited 2 years for paint. Mundane thoughts feel like luxury. Maggie told me recently, you've changed. Not just because of this. I asked how. She said, you learn to ask. I almost called it weakness, but she added, it's strength that keeps us together. I didn't argue. The ending of this story isn't written yet. Maybe we'll keep this house, maybe not. But I know now that home isn't plaster or shingles. It's the stubborn act of staying. Staying honest when silence would be easier. Staying with your people when shame says run. Staying yourself when your name is stolen. If someone asked me what altered me the most, I'd point to Elaine's first call and that word on the page, foreclosure. It sounded like a sentence. Instead, it became a beginning. I never wanted to be a 41-year-old man learning how to ask for help. But here I am. And maybe, just maybe, that's the person I was always meant to be.